That's the beauty of biology, because it's only in biology that you tell the story of life. As I'm speaking to you now, it's an aspect of biology. You remember association, symbiosis, commensalism, parasitism. Biology is what you live every day. The fact that you got up today and you were able to breathe in and breathe out is Mr. Niger D in your secondary school biology. Respiration. So everything is linked with everything. And biology is the only science that showcases the beauty and dynamics of life. So you are lucky to be studying biology. What you do with it is what will determine how far you will go. When you begin to see biology as an interesting phenomenon, as a science that is waiting to be unraveled, because biology presents you with everything you need to know in every relationship. She is light-skinned. She is dark-skinned. We are talking melanin. She has more of the pigment than she does. Your teacher there is male and female. There's only one enzyme that differentiates a male from a female. We call it cytochrome P45019. Because I produce testosterone, he produces testosterone. But I convert my own testosterone to estrogen. He stops at testosterone. That's the beauty of biology. You're able to compare. You're able to look at associations. What I'm doing now is ecology. But if you look at biology within the context of you separate it from daily life, then it doesn't, that beauty of it does not show to you. So next time you are walking on the streets, look at the leaves of trees. Some are very light green, some are dark green. Ask yourself the question, why? When you're able to understand why, you can answer the question when, why, where, and how. And those are the questions of science. Those are the questions of biology. You notice that when you were very young, you were a toddler, and your neurons were growing at a very alarming rate. Children are very inquisitive. They'll ask you, why? Why am I a girl? You answer the question and say, but why am I? They keep saying why until you say, okay, shut up. That's enough. Because they are learning. As you grow older, that curiosity seems to disappear. The curiosity to ask questions about the dynamics of life begins to disappear because of distraction. Social media, all the selfish that you take, I call it selfish, to make my students laugh. I know. But if you are going to make something of this biology, you need to retain that ability to ask questions and to be curious. We don't have too much time, but I can send somebody upstairs to get, for me to show you my diagram of fish in my third year as an undergraduate student. I show it to my students with pride. How many of you have your notes from OND? You don't know where they are? How many? Because knowledge is something you build on from one building block to another. This is, please go upstairs. While I'm taking them around, we'll do this. Tell them to give me there's a file on my table, literally this table, where I wrote drawings. I want to show them my drawing in 1990. Where were you in 1990? So that you will be able to know that it's a building block. From observing the egg of the ostrich, you can tell the difference between the egg of the ostrich and the egg of the chicken. And that's the beauty of it. That's, biology is teaching you what we call the power of observation. And only philosophers, because what I'm telling you now is also philosophy. Biology derives from philosophy. Have you ever heard that Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci contributed to biology? You don't believe? Yeah, they did. Because by being able to dissect the human body and draw, they provided a lot of information on anatomy. They taught us dissection. The man that the butchers in Bodija are classical examples of dissection. in biology. Have you ever been to the abattoir to see how they dissect the cow? Because if you don't do it in a particular way, you must understand the bones, the connection between the bones and the muscles and the nerves. So you see them after taking out the cow and severing the jugular nerve, the jugular vein, they now start cutting along particular crevices to take out, because if you cut that way, everything would have bones. That's classical anatomy. So the next time you see them, don't think they are illiterate. Try and look at what they are doing. What I'm trying to tell you with this interaction is that when it comes to biology, the power of observation will take you far. Your ability to ask the questions why will take you far. Your ability to find interest, just like I'm going to do for you in the next 20 minutes. You have gone around this museum, but I want you to look at this museum with another eye, in a new eye, and we'll do that quickly so that you'll be able to appreciate better and then study these organisms that you are seeing. I do tell people, I tell them, welcome to the premium preeminent Department of Zoology. This department is 77 years old. The department started in 1948, and we are the only department in Nigeria that has this kind of museum, Department of Zoology. You find this was patterned around the British Museum and other museums you find in other places. And we are looking forward to having you becoming the next Einstein. Yeah, thank you. Let me just show you. You can see I said drawings from Aina O for practical learning. This was a diagram I made in 1990. How old is this paper? 1990 to 2026. 36 years old. So next time you go to exam and you do this, remember that you may find yourself in this situation, you may have nothing to show. These are the drawings. These are diagrams of parasites. These are diagrams of parasites. Can you see that? I can still tell you the name of this parasite. This is Apharingostrigia communiciplex. That's not what I'm doing now. But because I took time to draw it, I can still remember the name. And you can do it. All you need is a little bit of focus. These are fishes. This is slapwater, Heterotis niloticus. I'm sure they've shown you some of these things. But they were not, you didn't find them interesting. This is Bomyrus rumen, the elephant trunk snailfish. You can look at the date, 27 to 1990, 27th of February, 1990. So if a 36-year-old practical fire can look like this, what stories are you building? What are you taking out? Because you see, it's strange when people have gone through the higher school education and they come out and you ask them, what are you going to do? And they don't know. That's because you have not taken time to understand why you are there. Don't let them in their cell. You have different types of animals here, from the lowest to the highest. If you go to your class, Kingdom Mammalia, and you go through all the classes, from the pre-chordates, proto-chordates, to the chordates, and then you get to vertebrates, and then you start with fish. You will find fish here. That is fish. You have protopterus and nectans there. You will find, after fish, amphibians. You will find amphibians here. That's an amphibian. That's a dogfish that was opened up for us to see the inside. You will find reptiles. These are reptiles all the way. Different ones. From reptiles, from amphibians, we started what we call walking on fours, tetrapoda. They were the transition group from water to land. And that meant that if they, because if you look at the world, the earth is covered by 70%, 75% water, and 25% land. And it's the oceans of the world have been so designed that it's something that will make them keep water. That's why urine came up, because you don't need a lot of water to recycle. And for birds that took the air environment, they needed to come up with something else because they can't carry water. Imagine you drinking water and somebody says you should come and run a 100-meter race. It's either you throw or you fall down in the way. So birds had to evolve over. So when you look at the pool of birds, the white part is their pee. It is uric acid, which is excreted like crystals because they cannot afford to have water in their system. And that's why they don't have urinary bladder. What you do not need, nature does not provide. Bipedalism. That's why the tree had to go. But when you were a small child, you still had it, and it was resolved. And that's what shows the relationship between you and other chordates. You had that tail. If you go back and look at the embryonic development, you see that chord tail. You first looked like a lizard before you looked like what you and I look like today. And that's what you find here. The tail. From the snake that had to be rearranged for you not to see the tail to this. So amphibians came up with the fins that you have in fish. Pectoral and pelvic fins became the forearm and the hind limbs. And that's what you find here. So we have an eclectic collection. I was talking to you about size. Look at the what do you call it? The egg of a finch and that of an ostrich. Look at the way they build their nests. Picking twigs one by one and weaving a house. It tells you that birds are intelligent animals. And it is from them that the issue of warm-bloodedness started from. Because the ones that came to land, amphibians, could not cope with dehydration. Because that was the first problem that terrestrial organisms faced, the problem of dehydration on land. So they were always in water. Then reptiles came. They were still cold-blooded, but they could venture further than amphibians, but they still needed cool places. So if organisms that came to land were going to survive on land, they needed to change the mechanism. And that's why warm-blooded organisms come up, homeotherms. And homeothermy started from birds and then to mammals. These are the two homeotherms. And that's why us and birds were able to dominate land. Then the air environment was empty, and birds became restructured to be able to lift up and fly. And what's the most important feature in them? Feathers. Have you ever found yourself having to kill chicken and take out the feathers for your mother? Yeah. And then you all those little ones here, that's fine. Those are the phyllopiums. They have no, sometimes they will say it's because you were talking. Yeah. And then you remember the knock on the head. That's the fourth kind of feather. We still do not understand their function, but there are four types. You have the quill or flight feather, the contour or covert feather, the down feathers. The down feathers are the first feathers that come up, and it is for insulation. And then you have the phyllopiums. Those are the phyllopiums that you see. So that's why I told you that biology is something you live, you breathe, you do every day. And I want you to see it that way. Now when you see that way, your learning outcomes become much better. So, reptiles all the way. And then you have the pollinators and the moths. The dragonflies, the moth, the butterflies. And that is a scorpion. I'm sure you love these cells, these shells. These are echinoderms. Remember the sea star. Those are the things you find. Parasites. Have you ever seen Hirudo medicinalis? It was used in ancient medicine to take out what they call the bad blood, because they can suck blood from the beast. So this place, like I said, contains a myriad of what you will find around there. We call that kind of collection an eclectic collection, where you have everything being represented in a box. So let's move on. I'm sure you have seen that's fasciola, right? Good. You find that the liver fluke you can find it in cows and all that. That's why Africans, we are lucky, we cook our food, and that's a lobster over there. Herbivores, the carnivores, the omnivores, and we have the detritivores too. And then we have microbes at every stage that has to degrade the energy so that there can be energy transfer. Energy is either transferred through when an animal dies and is broken down, or when an organism is eaten by another. This morning, I don't know whether you have eaten, but you may have taken something from plants or from animals. That's transfer of energy, because it is what you ate that gave you the energy to stand and do other things that you have done today. Of a crocodile, showing the beauty of the central position of the vertebral column. The greatest form of architecture we have that is showcased by nature is found in the suspended foundation. No matter how beautiful the house you are in, the foundation is always on the floor. But the foundation of our body is suspended, the vertebral column. And that's the greatest architecture that nature has provided. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. No other architecture is as good as that. Because I can use that as an example. Hold this for me. The vertebral column is from the base of the skull all the way to here. The head, the skull was rest on the vertebral column. Rest on the vertebral column. Rest on. If we take this out, what happens? Everything comes up. So this is the greatest architecture you can find. And that's why when we show you bones, just don't look at the bones alone. Look at the central axis, which is the vertebral column. That's what everything revolves around. Just like the foundation of the house. Without the foundation, the house will not stand. And the vertebrae are, when you are talking about bones, they are jointed, they are rigid jointed appendages. You can only bend them at the joints. And with the aid of the muscle, that teaches you division of labor and cooperation. The muscle is what moves the bone. The nerve brings the chemical message to move the muscle to move the bone. So you can see cooperation. So next time your class mate is not around, try and find out about them. If they need help, help them. Because cooperation is what makes everybody to work better. What is teaching you that cooperation? Biology. Imagine the kind of engineering that went into weaving this together to give that nest. So next time you are looking at this, look at it from another eye. Some birds have a sharp beak. They are carnivores. The vulture has a bald head, and it has to do with its mode of feeding. Vultures feed on carcass. So if they have hair, if they have feathers on their head, it will be infected. And that's why their head is bald. What we do not need, nature does not. Another nest. Look at this. This is a bill. It is not a beak. It is quite different from what you found there. And then we come to the selection of modern fishes. From the sharks, that's the hammerhead shark. Because the head looks like a hammer. To freshwater fishes. Look at all these fishes. Take a snapshot of their name. And you know the good thing with knowledge these days? Ask Google. I want to know a little bit about the shark, the hammerhead shark, spinal quadri. You will get the information. That is that's one of the importance of AI. Don't take everything verbatim, because you have to develop your own. And don't rely on AI for thinking. You are supposed to think and ask some questions. Take the ones that are correct, because it's not everything on AI that is correct. Don't write the title of your assignment on AI and expect that you are going to get right answers, because we know how AI thinks. But it's supposed to help you to see another perspective. Then we also go to birds that come from Europe to tropical environments. That's why you have all these maps. During the cold months, this is the peacock. And you can see development here. Browning development. And we have charted that part to show the intelligence of birds. They come from there. They stay at our own wetland area. Adeogun wetlands is one of the places where you find them during the cold months. And environmental cues tell them it's time to go back, and they fly all the way over the Atlantic and go back to where they came from. This is embryology. We are talking neurological development here. From when the egg is fertilized, you have cleavage and gastrulation. One class, please. One class. You have cleavage and gastrulation. I tell my students, cleavage is about division. If there is no division of the cells, there will be no expansion. If fertilization occurs, and because the information that you have in different parts of the egg, the female brings more to the table during reproduction than males because she's bringing in haploid nucleus and all the information contained in the cytoplasm. That information must be distributed. They can only be distributed when there's division. And then you have division of the nuclei, cytoplasm surrounding it. And when that has happened, they now need to interact. A passage is provided. Flattening of the vegetal pole, formation of a buckling, and then an acantharon. And it goes all the way, and that is what forms your own mouth, secondarily. That's why you are called deuterostomes. Stoma is mouth. Deuterostome means mouth second. And protostomia are mouth first. Stoma is mouth, proto is one. First. So we have deuterostomes, protostomes, cleavage. Then gastrulation is interaction. You have a beautiful wedding, you have a beautiful day. That's not the most important thing in your life. Wolpert said it is neither birth nor death, nor marriage, nor gastrulation that is the most important event in the life of a living organism. Because if the cells that are in the inner layer don't move to interact with those in the outer layer, you may be losing an arm. Yeah. So the main reason why I'm standing here with everything complete is that gastrulation was complete during my development, and the same thing. So when you find other people who are not that low, don't make jest of them. It was a problem of gastrulation. Because as at the time the chemical message was given to move for interaction to occur, that's why you will leave your father's house. You will follow one boy, go and marry him. Because interaction must occur, the species must continue to be perpetuated. And with bisexual reproduction, you are bringing new variants that are stronger, they look better, you know, all of you look beautiful these days, look better and all that, and can survive the environment. That's why we study cleavage, fertilization, cleavage, and gastrulation. A person that does not know where they are coming from and not know where they are going. That's why we talk about chemistry in biology. Careful. All our ancestors, these are dinosaurs, prototypes of dinosaurs. We had the age of reptiles, the age of fish, the age of reptiles, the age of birds before we got here. So this is telling you about the geologic time scale and what happened in the earth a long time ago. It is our attempt as scientists to explain life as we see it. And with the issue of being able to do what we call carbon dating, we're able to find out that some organisms had lived there long before us. And the catastrophe of the earth led to some other organisms coming up. And those catastrophes occurs from time to time because a physicist will tell you the world was created on the original chaos. More fish, a lot of tilapias are coming up. We have about 19 or 20 different species now, and we talked about where you find them. Some are bentopelagic. That means that they can use the bottom portion of water and the middle portion. Some are pelagic, strictly pelagic. You can see the human skeleton, and then look at the limbs. For vertebrates, the proximal part is where you have the uterus. When you say the humerus. Proximal means very close to you. Distal is far away from you. Most of the modifications are in the distal portion. And that is why you find that a horse actually taught us how to do ballet. Because the horse walks on his third toe. That's why they canter. Horses canter like that. because there's a fusion, because that's where the modifications occur. From the bat to humans to others, you will see the modification to the birds. It's always in the distal region. And then we have the features of a monkey here, the complete skeletal system. The pelvic girdle of the female is wider than the male. When your hip bones are narrow, you love your father more than your mother. That's why you took the one of your father. Because the hip bones of men are supposed to be narrower. Because you remember, the process of birth is very difficult. The baby has to engage his head and force open that opening there. And if it is narrow, there's a limit to what it can go. It can lead to sudden hemorrhaging. The brain, these are models to show you. We come back to the skulls, like I have mentioned before. I don't know whether you have heard of the armadillo. That's an armadillo. It's a primitive organism. And then you see the hedgehog, the human skull. No, this one is the gorilla. Gorilla skull. Duck-billed platypus. Those are some of the earliest mammals. Then you have a range of beetles, preservation techniques here. How do you preserve? We use MS222, we use formalin. You can use ice when it comes to fish to be able to see all this. And on this note, I want to welcome you again to Zoology Department and our museum. And I hope you have learned one or two things.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
You were the first person that came in to address us because everything you said was beautiful. We appreciate you.